Brut, you're nearly gone. Good morning. It's going to be the start of a new series today. It's my late shift at work. Of course, normally I do my sort of weird layering videos, but I thought I'd have a little week off that one today because I'm getting very low on this fragrance here. It's Brut Eau de Toilette, the original cologne. Now, Brut is a very well-known fragrance. There's loads of different ones. You can get body sprays, there's ones with green bottles, different sort of flankers and versions of Brut. But it is very much an old school type fragrance. And I've had this one for a little while. As you can see, it's nearly gone. And this new series I want to do today is kind of, while I'm at the end of a bottle, I'm essentially going to try and sort of finish it during my workout today, talk about it in a little bit more detail, because I very rarely buy a fragrance again straight after I finished it. I tend to give it a year, maybe a couple of years, or never buy it again, because there are so many fragrances out there. So I wanted to talk about this one today, kind of give everyone a heads up. I've done a fitness fragrance review on this before, but kind of just sell you some experiences I've had of it, what it kind of smells like, pros and cons, and then let you kind of decide whether it's something you might be interested in buying before I throw it away. And yeah, it's not going to take very long. It looks like there's a lot of juice in there, but that will go very quickly, I'm sure. I'm even going to put a little bit more on to help me get through this workout. It's really hot in the UK this week. It's a bit of a heat wave for bank holiday weekend, so I'm going to need a bit of extra power. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to head out for my run. I'm going to do sort of 10, 11 mile run, which I normally do before my work shift. And yeah, we will be talking about this one today. So I'll see you out there. We are off, and it is a gorgeous morning today. I mean, to be honest, I don't know why I've put my coat on. I guess the only good thing I've got zip pockets, so I don't lose my phone and the key. But it is certainly feeling like summer today, and the perfect day to be wearing this sort of fragrance, Brut Original Cologne. It came out in 1964, and again, as you kind of expect with retro fragrances, it's got quite an extensive note breakdown. So you've got notes of like lavender, which is quite prominent in this. You've got a bit of basil. You've got a bit of orange blossom. There's a few more floral components. There's a bit of vanilla in this one. Oak moss, which again kind of gives it this fougere barbershop vibe. And the best way I could describe this, and some people will say this is a bit of a negative of it, it kind of smells like your granddad's soap. You know, he used to wash himself with soap in the mornings or when he got in from work. It does have that old person DNA about it, but it's very clean. And what I would say, in contrast to maybe a lot of retro scents that are around at that time, it's certainly not as aggressive. You know, again, it has a big note breakdown, but it's soft, it's gentle, yes, it's masculine, but it's not really in your face, loud, you know, pine, leather, carnation, anything like that. No, there's even a bit of jasmine in this, yang yang, which gives it that kind of feminine vibe, which makes this one for me quite appealing. And when I bought this, it was essentially, I wanted to get 5 or 6 fragrances all for a cheap price. So I remember buying Police Extreme, which is kind of more like a Dior Sauvage, a bit more of a modern, clean shower gel blue fragrance. I think I bought Ragdoll Intense, which is actually a sort of Middle Eastern caramel scent. But I'll be honest with you, out of those two that I also bought with this, I think I like this one just as much. It's got a safe DNA, again a soapy DNA, which is recognisable, but it does feel quite unique to Brut. You know, if I was to spray this amongst 100 other fragrances, there's no two ways about it, I would recognise this one, and that's what makes it quite appealing to me. But we're going to go into sort of a couple of pros and also a couple of cons of this fragrance next, just to help you decide whether you think this one is worth buying. Okay, so the first 2 pros of this one kind of linked to the categories I normally do on my fitness fragrance reviews, but you cannot knock it for that reason. The first one's got to be its price. So obviously I said I bought this one. I believe I bought it from a shop called Fragrance Direct, or it might have been Notino. No, I think it was Notino, which of course is a very popular website to buy fragrances from. And to be honest with you, the price here hasn't particularly changed over the years. I think I paid about £6.10p. It was a silly sort of like pennies on the end. But I think you can pretty much still buy a 100ml bottle for this for under £10. Now, look, for someone who's maybe a little bit older, who maybe grew up wearing this one, you're going to say that's brilliant value for money because it has that nostalgia feel. And even for someone like myself, I remember going around one of my friends' houses and their dad sort of gifted, because they obviously wore Brut, gifted his child, who was obviously my friend, he was 13 at the time, a Brut sort of body spray. So it does have that nostalgia effect, and it has passed through generations certainly over the years as well. And I think for any fragrance that's got a unique DNA and a pretty wearable DNA at that as well, even though it does have that dated feel about it. That's not a bad price. You know, when I look at some cheaper fragrances that you can get for that price range, particularly clones and some of the Middle Eastern ones, they can have quite a strong alcoholic blast. This one definitely doesn't. This one smells, you know, really recognisable, but really safe, really well blended together, and absolutely fine to chuck in things like a gym bag, you know, just have as a top-up spray in your work bag. And I suppose that's kind of leading into its next positive, really. It is one of those that's pretty versatile. You can wear this in, you know, many situations. Look, has it got enough protection and performance about it really to wear it in a sort of dress-up occasion? No. But is it really wrong for that if you wanted to put that on, if that's all you had? No, it's not. You know, I've had, you know, celebration birthdays and stuff, and weddings, and wherever where you might wear like a lighter shirt rather than suit and tie, or a day sort of network event in the summer, and it'll be fine. And you know, it's absolutely fine for this sort of exercise today when it's like 25 degrees. You know, it's perfect for that. And I think that's what I'd say, is it's not maybe my number one choice for anything, but it can be worn pretty much anywhere. You know, you can wear it at home. I actually wear it to bed a lot because it's a very nice bed spray. It's very calming, and that's probably coming from the lavender that's in it as well, alongside the basil. So I think it's really got that versatility about it that makes it probably a huge part of why it's so successful as well. And again, a bit of a side note with this one. Again, whether you want to take this one to positive, but it is for me, it's a funny shaped bottle. It's kind of curves in the middle. It's almost like a starfish shape, which makes it quite easy to hold. But also where it's quite flat and it's not round, it's not bulky, it's quite easy to slip in the side of a pocket. You know, and a lot of my bags, they kind of have like a side pocket for things like a wallet, you know, or just something you can put in like some keys that don't really stick out too much. This would easily fit in there. You know, it's not too bulky, the bottle's got good quality about it. The lid, it's a plasticky lid, but it's got a neck around the atomizer, so it's, in my opinion, less likely to leak. And I just like that about it. It's got a nice design on the glass bottle. It just feels like overall a well put together fragrance that's just for a good price. And then that kind of leads on to why do I have some negatives about it? Well, the negatives I'm going to go on to next. On to some of the cons or limitations I think you might have here with Brut Original if you're someone considering buying it. Now, I could quite easily go into the cheap, easy sort of con that could be that it's a bit dated, and if you're someone who's not used to this sort of scent DNA, you know, particularly if you're a younger person who's only used to kind of those blue fragrances or 1 million or Versace Eros, yeah, this is going to feel too old and too far removed for you. But I'm not going to mark it down for that, because ultimately it was a fragrance of its time. You know, 1964, England hadn't even won the World Cup at that stage. You know, my mum and dad weren't even born, and they're into their 60s. Over 60 years ago, this fragrance. And the fact it's still around says, well, you know, it's done really well. It hasn't needed to modernise itself in that sense. It's its recognisable nostalgic DNA that makes people come back. So what can we really mark it down for? Well, I am going to say on this one, the performance. Now, again, we touched upon it a minute ago. One of the positives is that you can wear it as like a bed spray. And I think, as we said, it's the lavender and some of those notes in there that maybe aren't as prominent, aren't as strong, they're a little bit lighter. Even orange blossom, for example, that gives it that more wearability. But there are other notes in this, and we've said before, jasmine can be a strong note, yang yang can be a strong note, sandalwood can be if it's a high-end one. I don't expect it to be too much in this though. But even oak moss can be quite strong because it's a green note as well. And of course vanilla, we know in a lot of fragrances today, a lot of night out fragrances, that's quite prominent. So while I don't want it to be really heavy, really aggressive, because I think that is a one big positive about it, I think it could have done a bit more. I mean, in terms of its longevity, I find for me, if I've got really warm, like in the night, it's a warm night last night, I can just about smell it on my top in the morning, but I wouldn't be able to smell it like this. I'd have to bury my nose into it. I think you'll get about 1 to 2 hours from it, which again is fine, but I think this one has the potential just to go to that 3 to 5 hours, which could almost get you through, say, a second half of your work shift on a hot day. This one for me is very much apply every 1 to 2 hours, and I think with some of the notes in it and the complexity of the note breakdown, it could have just done a little bit more, maybe a slightly higher concentration of vanilla, but that might just be because, again, it is a cheap fragrance and it's not using the most high quality oils probably in the world. You know, as I said earlier, sandalwood, Acqua di Parma Sandalo is a super strong fragrance, but that quality of the sandalwood in this is never going to compete to that unless you want to pay a higher price. But that's probably its biggest limitation. And I think the other thing is I hate to say it, but it's not cool. And I know this is, again, if you're a fragrance enthusiast, you know, that's absolutely fine. You're probably someone though who will go and spend and buy 5, 6, 7 fragrances just like that. But if you're someone who kind of shops around this £5 to £10 range in general, would you particularly go for it? I'm not sure you would, because you're going to be looking probably for those sort of cheaper clones. You're going to be looking for those ones that smell a bit like what everyone else is, because actually, same with obviously a lot of clothing and hairstyles and whatever, shoes even, people like to go with what everyone else is wearing, what's cool. And unfortunately, Brut is just not that. It's not a cool name. It's kind of got that reputation, unfortunately, of being a little bit older gentleman. But again, if you're someone who wants to rock that, that's absolutely fine as well. And again, I'm still very glad it's in my collection, and I'm gonna miss having it in there as well. And I've got a couple of stories I'm going to go on to next, which tell you why I think Brut was great and why I've really enjoyed having it in my collection. Okay, so the first story I'm going to go into kind of links to my brother. So if you haven't seen these videos before, essentially my interest in fragrances came from when my brother was really getting into buying fragrances, particularly through COVID time. It was Paco Rabanne Pour Homme that he was wearing to work a lot, because he wanted to treat himself, because he was one of the few people that wasn't on furlough and had to still go to work. And it was just waking up every morning, because I was just at home on furlough, you know, just smelling all these fragrances that he was putting on, because he was overspraying them. And eventually I was like, oh, I think I need to do that. And I was just buying them. It was kind of like that little hobby, that little side thing to keep me going during that COVID time when we were in lockdown. And he's always one of those people that we both have bought a lot over the years. He's bought more fragrances than me, but I think my interest has certainly gone above his now. And it's funny, because he's one who will tell me if I've bought a fragrance, he will say if he likes it or if he doesn't. He'll be completely honest. And I'll remember when I got this one, I bought, again, it was about 5 or 6 fragrances. I probably paid under £50 for them all. And it was the one that he actually kept going back to. He said, oh, I really like that one. Is that Brut? And he said, yeah, that's really nice. Now, he's never bought it, I'll be honest with you, but I know for a fact he has certainly considered that one. And I remember him before going, oh, I was going to buy that, but I completely forgot. You know, that's one I was going to get. And I've got no doubt he will get this one at some point as well. And I always know when he likes the fragrances. When, say, we go for walks, we do a lot of walks in the evening, he'll always mention what I'm wearing if he likes it. So today I've put quite a lot on, and I noticed it. I put on a Davidoff Cool Water cologne yesterday, and he mentioned it straight away, which is always a sign I know he likes it. He won't mention it if he doesn't like it, and he'll tell me if he doesn't like it as well. But the other day when I was wearing Brut, he said, oh, you've got Brut on, haven't you? And first of all, for someone who's tried, you know, probably over 1,000 sprays in his sort of lifetime, certainly over the last 10 years, for someone to again be able to pick out a £5 or £6 fragrance and mention it because he likes it, I think that speaks volumes, because he is someone who will quite happily go and spend £200-300 on fragrances just in one go, or even like just general stuff. He'll go and spend £1,000 on like a Oasis related item because he loves the band. So for someone like him to mention it, to say how nice it is, and to still like it after all this time, I think that speaks volumes about it. And that's a sign for me that it's a good fragrance, because I do trust his judgment. Whether we always agree or disagree on the smell, I always think sometimes his opinions and his reasons for liking or disliking something are very fair and very balanced. So the fact he likes this one always says to me is a bit of a story. It's a good fragrance, and I definitely agree with him on that one. Okay, and the final story is kind of a bit more of a personal one rather than related to my brother or anyone else externally. And it is a Saturday today. It's the 23rd of May 2026. Now last year, a year ago, it was Saturday the 24th of May 2025 when I did my London to Brighton 100k ultra challenge, and that's why I started this channel, to sort of share my journey for the young adults I was raising money for. And yeah, it is on today as well, which I'm kind of missing it. I feel like I'm missing out quite a lot. But one thing I noticed during that sort of training period, and obviously I've enjoyed the fact I've created this channel and done fragrance videos since, but the one thing I really did suffer with was this kind of huge amount of weight loss. And if you look back at some of my videos from my training, particularly in those first sort of 5 or 6 videos I did, you only need to see that I was extremely thin. I was 8 stone 1, and my face was withered. My neck around here was so thin. I certainly wasn't eating properly, I wasn't looking after myself, and I was essentially a zombie. And I want to say, in terms of the vlogs I was doing, it was kind of about day 30 as I got into it, where I did a video where I said I need to change my ways. I had a very difficult conversation at home with my parents, and I couldn't continue, so I decided to leave the job I was doing. I had to get out of it, and essentially I had about 70 days, 80 days to go until the ultra. I thought, right, well, if I continue like I am, I won't finish it, and I'll end up in hospital before that, because I was just starving myself and exercising more. So I really had that decision. I needed to change. And one of the first things I did was I needed to kind of neaten myself up. So I was kind of just wearing, as you'd expect, because I've done a lot of exercise, a lot of sporty clothes. But I was kind of just like scruffy. I didn't feel like I was sort of showering properly. I was kind of, I'd sort of have a quick shower, but I knew I was going to do a walk later on in the day. So I was like, oh, well, I won't really wash my hair too much or anything like that, because I'll be exercising again later. But there was one day when I started to change, I thought, right, I need to feel better in myself. And I remember I had, probably not the best idea, but a really cold shower. And I put on, after that, Brut. And I went to the gym. Now, if you ever have a really cold shower, it feels horrible at the time, but you feel amazing about an hour later. So I had this cold shower, put on some clothes, sprayed Brut on me, walked to the gym, went on the treadmill. And I remember it was the first day in a long time where I thought, I actually feel good in myself. I felt alive again. And I think the most important thing was, I actually felt clean. I felt like I was doing that bit of self-care rather than, kind of just surviving rather than actually living life. It felt like I was just in a zombie mode. And you'll hear in those old videos, I almost sound like a zombie. I'm so robotic because I'm so low on energy. But Brut played a part alongside washing my hair, having a cold shower, putting on better clothes, in just making me feel better. And that's what this one is. I absolutely love soap fragrances for making you feel clean, fresh, and that you're giving yourself a bit of self-care. And honestly, mentally as much as physically, it makes a huge difference. And I found that Brut undoubtedly played a big part in that as well, because it wasn't too heavy, it wasn't too strong. And obviously when I was doing the training, it was starting to warm up into that March, April time. And I think next year, you never know, I might do another ultra marathon, and maybe I get Brut again for the occasion. And yes, that is it for today. Now, I know this was a slightly different one, but I definitely want to continue doing these. They probably won't be as deep and as personal as maybe this one has been today, but I tend to be one of those people that has a load of fragrances and always spray half of them and then get bored and go on to another one. My brother's very good at using a fragrance, getting through it before he moves on to the next one, but I'm not. But what that means is I do have a period where I have quite a lot that all get empty at the same time and quite low. And we will definitely do that. We'll kind of do like a fragrance finale with those scents before eventually I'll throw them away because they're finished. So hopefully you enjoy those ones as well. I hope you enjoyed this one today. And do I recommend getting this one? Do I recommend getting Brut Original Cologne if you've not tried this? Absolutely, yes, I do. Again, if you're someone who has an appreciation of old school retro scents like soapy fragrances, this is a brilliant one to go for. It's one that's not going to break the bank. It's one that's very versatile. It's one that will slip in your bag. And it's one that will make you stand out in a way where it's not too heavy, so not too many people are going to notice it. But you'll know that you smell different from everyone else. And for me, that's quite a good thing. If you're someone who's into scents, I like to find something that's quite popular, quite mass appealing, but also a little bit different, so you'll get remembered. And I think that's what this one definitely does. But also, you can just wear it for yourself at home casually, and even to bed, which is where I tend to use it now before I throw it away. So I think I'm going to finish that fragrance for today, spray it on the bed sheet before I go to bed tonight, because it will be exactly 1 year tomorrow since I did that ultra, and it definitely played a part in that as well. And there will be a fragrance which will probably come out before this, to be honest with you, which will be a bit of a fragrance film linking to that day of the ultra marathon. But yeah, thank you very much for watching today. I need to speed up this run because it's going to be very busy bank holiday weekend and I must get to work. So yeah, hope you enjoyed this. Hopefully see you some more videos soon. Catch you later.